Hello, everybody. My name is Lee Brady. I am the Policy Advocacy Manager for IDEA. I'm delighted to be here and welcome you all to this fireside chat. It's called Art, Education and Justice. We have three very special guests, whom I'm going to introduce momentarily. But before I do, just to say a couple of words about what we're going to do today. So we're going to have a conversation and an interactive chat about the power of art as a way of educating and as a way of inspiring hope for change and modelling change. And Rory said it all in his opening words about the state of the world we're living in today and what we're grappling with. So teaching or educating on global citizenship education is hard at the best of times. It's not an easy thing to do because we try to get at the root of why things are the way they are, right? The roots of injustice, the roots of inequality, and trying also at the same time to imagine a better future and to co-create that future. So we thought today we will look at the medium of art to educate and inspire hope for change, because we are living also in such challenging times. It requires a focus, an active focus on hope. So now to introduce our special guests. First up we have Dean Oke. Yes? Dean is an experienced youth worker working with young people through education, creativity and social impact in Ireland and abroad. Dean is also a spoken word artist using poetry to address social issues, sparking conversation and change through creative expression. Based in Cork, Dean has recently created a personal development group for young people ages 13 and up called the Candid Group, and uses social media as a platform to make sure young voices are heard and valued. You're most welcome, Dean. Next up we have Joe Caslin. Joe is an Irish street artist, art teacher and activist, best known for his large-scale street art that addresses social issues in Ireland. He gained international attention for his Claddagh Embrace mural in Dublin City during the 2015 marriage equality referendum. Joe's work often tackles themes such as mental health, addiction, LGBTQ rights, social injustice, direct provision, institutional power, consent, and most recently, the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic on young people. You're most welcome, Joe. And last but not least, Grace Dyas is an award-winning artist, filmmaker, activist, writer, director, producer, and performer from inner city Dublin. She makes film, theatre, and large-scale participation projects, often in collaboration with people processing trauma. Grace's art has raised provocative questions about power, ethics, morality, class, and social justice on issues including Ireland's history of social housing and the Magdalene laundries. Grace has also been outspoken on bullying and harassment in the arts, campaigning for accountability. Grace, you're most welcome. So on to our questions. I'm going to start with you, Dean. I'm not picking on you, I promise. Yes, just take the mic and switch on.
Hi.
Okay. Great. So you're a spoken word artist, yeah? How did you come to the format of spoken word, and what can you express through spoken word that other formats can't?
I guess it came to me in a dream, and I slept one night and I was like, hey, spoken word. But you can laugh, it's okay. No, but I guess spoken word for me came about because my sister did poetry when she was younger, and I was kind of inspired by that. And I kind of enjoyed, I didn't get to read her poems, but I got to, big sis kind of follow in her footsteps a little bit. But I guess I kind of, at the time, I kind of liked rap music, but I didn't like the messaging, but I liked the fact that they would talk about serious issues and serious topics. And for me, I guess that's what I always found interesting. And for me, it was like a way of expressing how I felt or the struggles that I was experiencing at different moments, because I started writing at the age of 12, and different things were going on in my life, and I kind of use it as an outlet to deal with multiple issues and multiple problems. And I guess what it allows me to express that's a little bit different from other art forms is that I can be my true voice. Because when I'm up here, I'm very like, hi, very polite. How are you getting on? Hi. But I guess when I do spoken word, it's not about people's emotions. It's about speaking the truth and letting voices to be heard and kind of being a voice for the voiceless. And I kind of feel like that's what's important to me when I'm doing spoken word, and that's what it allows me to express.
Thanks, Dean. So over to Joe next. Joe, I believe we have some slides. So over to you, Anya. So the Claddagh Embrace. I think most people in the room are probably familiar with the Claddagh Embrace. It was a piece that was put up before the marriage referendum. We're coming up to the 10-year anniversary of the vote, and we're in a time when there is a threat to queer rights and a sense maybe that we're going backwards. So in what ways, Joe, can art reach people that facts or arguments or other types of activism can't?
Hello. Hi, there we go. First of all, it's 10 years since we voted yes for the marriage equality referendum. So on behalf of me personally, I want to say thank you to everyone that's in the room that voted at that time. We've made huge, significant leaps and steps around equality that's that's here in this country, and for us to be the leaders of that movement, yes, other countries allowed same-sex marriage, but that was through judges. It was through a kind of a different method than when it came to the method that we took. We decided to go to a public vote, and we kind of got a strong majority that was in that. At the time, there was a lot of dialogue around what marriage equality meant. There was a huge kind of sway on the right side, the far right, that really wanted to kind of dissuade people. There was talks around, kind of childhood, and that same-sex couples shouldn't have children or shouldn't be allowed into that space. And there was a lot of stuff that I didn't agree with. So what I tried to do with the image is just really, find something that just distilled all of that noise down to one significant thing. And the image asks you, there's no writing on it, there's no, it allows you to take it and take it in whatever means that you want. But it was a simple gesture of love. You have a couple that are here that are in love. The Claddagh, it happened just on the day that Barry, and there was a gorgeous story. Barry's dad died just before this project took place, and his mum, 27 years ahead of that, bought his dad this ring. So before his dad passed away, he gave the ring to Barry, and Barry turned the heart in, for the love of his dad. And his dad was very open to Barry being gay and wanting to be in a same-sex relationship. So it was gorgeous. We put it up right in the middle of Dublin City. 97,000 people signed a petition for it to be kept. 7 people decided that they didn't want it. And that was my first introduction to the Burkes. So ye think ye know them. I know them long time. And they went for my mum. They found her email online and actively, kind of went at her and told her that I was going to burn in the gates of hell, and she was very happy with that because we just took it as like the madness that it was, but that has been there. Don't think that hasn't been there for a while. And then we brought the piece to a castle in Galway. I Googled castle in Galway and found this and found the property owner, and he said yes, because we knew that the pace of life in Dublin was going to be is much quicker. The pace of life in rural Ireland, and I'm from Roscommon, is much slower. And that's where the conversations needed to happen for it to, for the referendum to carry. So we found some lovely cow models, and that image was on the front of the Irish Times in the days leading up to the marriage. So it was quite important because a single image kind of cut through a lot of the mess that was happening, and it was just a conversation about love, and is love acceptable, and is it equal? And we voted yes, so thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Grace. So, Grace, you did a piece of work recently called Say Hello. And I'd like you to talk us through that. Well, we'll show it, and then I'd like you to speak to it, and then I'll ask the question. So let's just look at the piece first.
Yeah, there should be sound on it.
Sorry, we need sound, yeah.
Hi, Charlie. Going to make a cup of tea. I had a hard day in work today, Charlie. That Sharon one is tormenting the heart and soul out of me. I said, here, leave it bleeding now. She's going to report me, Charlie. I know she is. Not that I care, I don't care. Let her. Make a cup of tea, Charlie. I'm going over to get the milk. Oh, Charlie, there's no milk. Who'd put an empty carton into the fridge? I have to head down the shop. They be all down there. Don't know what I'm going to do.
For the weekend, no man, bro. We'll be going to the gym, bro, and just pop a sore out, man. I'd like my legs, bro, aren't they for them, bro?
Wait, now I tell you, Charlie. I couldn't believe it. One of them said hello to me.
All right, love. Do you want to get past that, eh? Boys, what's today?
And then he started telling them all to let me through. He got me thinking about all them kids that stand around the shops. And what he went on to do. And I started thinking, what am I afraid of? So we were all young ones.
Amazing. Grace, so you created a new agency, right, through which you made this piece. Tell us, first of all, what you're aiming with the agency, but then can you talk about why you think like the medium of film and storytelling and mixing different media, so audio, video, sound, live performance, reaches people in a way that traditional education doesn't?
I think it goes back to like all the work I've made over my career, like say whether it be about drug addiction or about communities in Limerick, in my Ross, in the Island Field in South Hill, or whatever different things I tend to hone in on, prisons, and people always say like, is it positive or negative? Do you know what I mean? And that's because people are used to kind of media coverage being this kind of either positive or negative and this kind of binary. And I think art can, I always say, no, it's both and neither. You know, it's the truth. Like art can provide complexity that other mediums just can't, because you can put forward all sorts of different views. So I suppose like I have kind of an art practice, which we'll get to in a second, but I also have always had a kind of an activism practice. And this is a way of kind of formalizing that and just creating a different space to talk about these things that are fundamentally about shifting perception. So I'll just give a little background to it. If you can scroll up a tiny bit, just so I can see, because I don't know it off by heart yet. It's new, it's brand new. Yeah, great. So it's basically named after the word in the Playboy, The Western World Shift, which I don't know if people know, that caused massive riots and changed culture and changed Dublin City forever. And it's the idea that if that one word can cause such a shift, what if we put together a string of words or whatever? And if you notice, like when you talk about a word, like say shift, we might say, how do you spell that? And, you know, I believe that words are spells, you know, and the frames that we use and the words that we use are really, really important. So the idea is that it's kind of like an artist-led change agency. So just a play on the idea of an advertising agency. I don't even know what the word, like what it means in the advertising world, but I just like the word agency as well. I think it's a good word to spell with.
Well, agency means ability to act.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So we all have ability to act. And then, so it's artists and activists working together with visionary decision makers to boldly shift hearts using artistic excellence, political acumen and love. We make videos that change minds. So that's the idea behind it. So with that project, it was the Connect 4 project came to me, and we worked for a long time on this idea of what needed to be shifted in Tala, and I think that kind of illustrates it, that it's complexity, do you know what I mean? So like the young people in the streets were kind of like, so there was older people who were feeling kind of intimidated by young lads kind of standing around, and then there was young lads who weren't aware that they were being intimidating. And there was the idea that if you're wearing a Canada Goose or if you're wearing an North Face, you're a drug dealer. Now, some of them are dealing drugs, but that doesn't mean they won't go on to do different things. And young people all have potential, and at the end of the day, they're children. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of trying to foster empathy through that education, but it was two groups of people kind of educating each other. And that's where the kind of concept and the script came from.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Grace. Can I stick with you, Grace, now, just for another question? I mean, we still have the thread of empathy there, but maybe bringing in another perspective of focusing on alternatives, right? You also were involved in a film installation called the Mary Magdalene Experience, and it's set in a world where neoliberalism is the prevailing faith-based religion, and money gives men the power to buy any experience they want. So this was the final installment in the Magdalene series at Rua Red, curated by Melissa Boyle, and the series featured the work of 5 of Ireland's leading artists: Amanda Coogan, Jessie Jones, Grace Dyas, Alice Mayer, and Rachel Fallon. So this was commissioned by Rua Red in 2018 to create work in response to the history and legacy of the figure Mary Magdalene. Maybe if you can walk us a little bit through this piece and also answer, why is it important that we get to the root of things to be able to co-create a better world?
So I suppose when I got the commission, I had already made a piece of work about the Magdalene laundries and about survivors of Magdalene laundries, and I have an ongoing activism sort of relationship with that cause as a whole and with some of those women. So I felt like actually I wanted to try and approach this from a different direction. Some of the other artists would have looked at the laundries and stuff. So I went back to looking at Mary Magdalene, the figure herself, and is it a real person, what actually happened? And I did a lot of really interesting research. And when we speak about kind of root causes, a lot of the injustices that the church perpetuated on people would go back to this idea of sin. And if you read the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she recounts a sermon that Jesus gave where he spoke about that sin doesn't exist. And he wanted to refute the idea of sin. And she was kind of like this contemporary figure of his. Like they were parallel, they were equal. But the new church felt that women couldn't have spiritual authority, which again is the root cause of a lot of the harms that the Catholic Church perpetuated then. And I wanted to try and make a piece that would correct the record once and for all, kind of thing. So we had an actor who was hired, a woman who was hired by a man on a sex work website to perform a Mary Magdalene experience, which is something that men ask for. And she goes down a rabbit hole of researching Mary Magdalene and comes up with a very authentic Mary Magdalene experience, which leads to this man who's a local politician being cancelled and he takes part in an art installation by a local artist where he hangs himself on a crucifix for a number of days, and the audience can come and watch as a way of forgiveness. So that's the storyline in the film. Like, none of those things actually happened, but it was a
Nobody
way
was
of
harmed in the making of this film.
What?
Nobody was harmed in the making of the film.
No, thank God. There was like extreme risk assessment and stuff for crucifying an actor. Like, it was very intense. You had to get that right because it's, you know, actually it's very dangerous. That's why they did it that way. But yeah, so basically that was the kind of, when we speak about root causes, that's what we were looking at. And then it was just all these contemporary things that were popping up around it.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Grace. So interesting. I wish we had all day really to really delve into each of the different artworks. But I have another question for you, Joe. So on your website, you describe your work as holding a mirror up to the kind of society that we are, whilst asking us individually what kind of society we want to be a part of. So as a teacher and an artist, how do you move beyond raising awareness of social justice issues and towards envisioning alternatives?
I would consider my practice as a street art an extension of my role as a teacher. So I would consider what I'm doing on the street as also my classroom. So I'm trying to take a social issue and give information or an education that's around it. And I have a little project that I worked on last year. I recently moved to Belfast, and there was an offer that came in around a project to look at the North and the legacy of conflict that was in Northern Ireland. It was around the same time as the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, and there was a lot of kind of pomp and ceremony taking place and a lot of backslapping with, you know, kind of white middle-aged men, and there was a whole lot of young people in the North that were like, their voices were completely forgotten. So they're called the ceasefire babies. They're the generation that were born after the Good Friday Agreement. So I put out an open call to work with them. And the project began with 6 women. Like all good jobs, began with 6 women. The street art world is very male dominated and male heavy, so my background would have done a lot of work with young men, but this project, it was all young women that signed up. There was one lad that stayed for a week and then he ran away, God bless him. So the funders nearly lost their minds because we sat and we talked and we listened, and we did it for 6 months, because I can guarantee you young women, they're not going to open up to you in 3 weeks. You have to build respect, you have to build trust, and that takes time. And we sat and I shut my mouth, which was a lesson well learned. And I sat back and listened to them. And our main sentence that we took from the project was, see us as equals, now hear our voice. You cannot hear anyone if you don't see them as equal. So that was their kind of moral statement. And they wanted to talk about 4 main themes: their experience of Northern Ireland, both good and bad, gender-based violence, suicide and mental health, and then their collective hopes and dreams, because they've chosen to live there and to stay there. And they believe that Northern Ireland is a place of hope. So that's, we found this gorgeous site. Well, actually not we, they found this. This was on my list of, I have a list of buildings that I want to get to. Doris Nuchtaron is up there. But this was on a list and I never thought that we'd get it, and we worked with the National Trust and we sat with the women that were in charge of this site, and the women sat beside them and they convinced them that this was the right place for this artwork. And it was like, it's one of the most breathtaking sites, and we got it. These are the 6 women. We had to be very mindful in safeguarding. I can't put 6 women, their images and their identities out to the world on the internet without envisaging that men are going to come for them. They were talking about gender-based violence, and I needed to protect them. So all the women are seen here as birds from the local area. Yes, there is video footage of them. You see them, you'll see their first names. But that was all agreed on. All of that happened in those 6 months. And this was the site. I hope it plays. I think we might have to, oh, there we go. It's huge. It's a disused or an old an old estate. There was Botticelli's and Raphael's that was inside. The British Army took it over, and you can see what way they left it. The image that we put on the front of it was to showcase the women. You see a face that's looking up, her eyes are closed, her hands are outstretched, and she holds within it an upturned triangle, and that's a symbol, a worldwide symbol of the feminine and fertility. We made the public walk through her voice box. That was, very a conscious thought. So every person that came to site had to walk through that so that they got to interact with the women. We made an app, so we applied augmented reality, so you could see that happened above it. So in the head, you could see the thoughts of the woman and the thoughts of these women. Protest is a way that young people in the North get to speak. Oftentimes, and it's great, like a protest in the North, go, just take your weekend off and go and protest in Belfast, it's some crack. There's like the exact same amount of pros as there is against. It's a great place. We made these protest placards, 134. There was a protest placard, so for every colour. Now, colour is another thing. You can't put up certain colours in the North because they're all like, they mean stuff. So we picked our colour suite, and these were all to do with the themes that the young people had. But I want to talk a little bit about these. So this was the colour of gender-based violence. Northern Ireland at the time is one of the most dangerous places. It is now the most dangerous place to exist in Europe for women. Northern Ireland has one of the highest rates of femicide in Europe. In 2003, a domestic abuse incident was recorded by the PSNI every 16 minutes. Where you see this type of writing, that's the women's handwriting, that's their opinion. When you see the typed writing, that's fact. Women's voices are often pushed away and said, shut up, we don't need to be listening to you. So we sourced it, and we triple sourced it. So anytime something was said that was fact, it was embedded. You could go and find that fact. Words matter. Women are only mentioned twice in the Good Friday Agreement, with no reference to their lived experience or conflict or the huge emotional burden placed on them. Now, I'm also very aware that I'm a man talking about women's experience. I was a facilitator and the artist on this project, and this is their voice. Stop expecting honesty from politicians who lie to themselves. This sign is in honour of the friends I have lost. Northern Ireland suicide outnumbered the Trouble's death toll. Over 4,500 people have taken their own lives since the conflict ended. Can we please put the smart people in charge? You will die of old age, we will die of climate change. Babes against bigots. Some people are trans, get over it. And then this was our final... I might need a bit of volume on that, Anna. We had a singer-songwriter that was on board on the team. And then this is them. We took over the site for the weekend. And then this is them just... it's over at the end. That's there. Yeah, down there. That's it. Oh, I don't know. I can sing for you. But this is them we took over the Mussenden Temple space, and it was gorgeous. And it was just them together. They had done so much, and they became sisters. They're called the Kindred Collective, and they've stayed together since. And it's just a really powerful way of answering your question.
Thank you so much, Joe. Wow. I said I would love to be able to sit here all day and go deeper and deeper and deeper. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask Dean another question. And also, we have a treat for you. Dean is also going to perform for us. So Dean, yes, you. There's no one else, no escape. So Dean, tell us about the piece you're going to perform very shortly. We asked you to choose a piece that represents most the change you'd like to see. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah, so there's two pieces I'm going to do for you guys, and I'll just be very short and concise with them. So the first poem is called Who Holds the Power? It's kind of looking at looking in society, who actually is in control, who is actually the person that is taking charge, who are we actually looking for? Because it's very easy to blame that person. You're the problem, and not actually find the root cause of it. Then the second poem is called Take a Knee, which will actually involve you guys moving a little bit. And it's kind of standing in solidarity with whatever you hear. So inside that poem, I will say different things, mention different, I guess, people that are suffering in society or struggling or being discriminated against. And if it resonates with you, you will take a knee. And I'll say another piece, and you'll take a knee, and so on. So that's the pieces I'm going to do. And hopefully, it'll hit you deeply. That's it.
Thank you, Dean. And before, give you a few seconds to get you into the zone for your performance. And while we're doing that, I just want to go to Grace briefly again. You mentioned in backstage, we were hanging out backstage, you mentioned a book you launched last night, which gave me goosebumps. So I thought it deserves a mention. So would you like to just let the audience know about that book?
Yeah, I'd really like to let them know. Hi guys. Sales pitch. No, so myself and Lynn Rowan, who's going to be speaking later on, for the last kind of 2 years, we've been working in Mountjoy Prison with a group of men who are collectively known as Pedro. And we've been working with them through Theatre of the Oppressed. So it's for people who don't know, I'm sure a lot of people do know in the room because it's very embedded in the kind of practices of development education, but it's basically a way of working with power. So you create these model scenes where oppression happens and the audience are empowered to kind of tag in and try and change the situation. So 2 years ago, we did a play inside in the prison for an audience of just decision makers in the men's lives. So like we had the head of CAB alongside ministers, alongside mothers, alongside, advocates, and they actually jumped in and were able to tag in and try and create solutions. It's very interesting. We did a dress rehearsal for an audience of men in prison the night before, and their solutions were incredible, like really, really good. And the actual show, the solutions were brutal. All the elected people kind of fell on their face. But anyway, so the idea was we wanted to try and put together a public record of the men's work. So the scenes that they wrote, the songs they wrote, their directions, their concepts that they put into the work. But obviously anonymity is very important because the media plays a huge role in people's parole outcomes. So that's why it's been done under a pen name, which is Pedro. And the book is called What We're Made Of. It's in books upstairs, and the hope is to get it out there nationally. It's also a tool, it's a manual, so if you buy it, you can use it with groups and stuff like that to repeat the same process. And yeah, the idea, just the last thing I'll say about, because it's important, the idea behind it is the men who we worked with have become a kind of a collective of artists, and they want to do another project with younger men. So that's what the legacy of the project they want to do. So we're trying to self-fund that through the book. So all the money from the book goes to the men who we've worked with becoming facilitators, autonomous leaders of their own groups with men, younger men from outside the prison who we'll bring in to work with the men. So that's kind of the idea behind it, so a new project. So as many book sales as we get is amazing. If you have groups, if you know people in other kind of projects who might like to buy the book for the project, that'd be amazing. And yeah, buy the book.
Thanks, Grace. So I'm really glad you touched on the topic of power, although the artworks we described earlier also touch on that topic, of course. But Dean is going to now perform his first spoken word piece on power, right? Do you want to stand up, Dean? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to read the poem, and every time I point my hand at you, you're going to say the word power. Okay? Is that okay? You can hear me? Thank God. Okay. Who holds the power? Who holds the power? Who holds it? A word that belongs to a certain class of people. It doesn't belong to those who are feeble. It influences the very fabric of our society, interwoven into our policies, our laws, and systems. It makes those with a voice to become silent while also empowering the voiceless and giving them a voice. It chooses who is worthy and unworthy, seen and unseen, educated man or a Northside fiend that can get you arrested and searched even though you're 17, and they do it without any reason given. It can pin you down to the ground and strip you of your innocence, turn you into a toy but you don't want to be played with. It has the authority to cast your body into the lion's den. It doesn't wait for an answer before it makes a decision. It doesn't even ask a question before it decides that it's not depression, that you don't need counseling, that it's all in your head. It does not consider the hour it tells you to come out, so you do it without question. Allows for the rich to remain rich and for those to overdose on drugs so that they fall in a ditch, never allowing them to go up the social ladder, striking them with poison like an adder. It shifts the blame to the powerless instead of confessing to their crimes. It places us against each other, us versus them, me versus the other, never acknowledging that you and I could be brothers and sisters. It gives us a pretty picture, like a football match. It gives us a time for our fixtures, boxing match. Who holds the power? Who holds the power? Who holds it? It is something that must be taken. Revolutions occurred from taking the power from those of a certain class and giving it to the people. It can be used for good and not evil. It starts with you and I, not the other guy. We must reclaim it. Don't blame those that don't look like you, because they're needed to keep this boat afloat. Who holds the power? Who holds the power? Who holds it? Can it be you? Please, God, let it be you. So this is the second poem I'm going to do. It's called Take a Knee. I don't know if you have enough space to stand up and take a knee, maybe. If you want to stand up, if you can. Awesome. Hey. We're going to move some legs. Okay. So what's going to happen is if you have the space. Now, obviously, if you can't go on a knee, like you can sit down. So I'm going to read the poem, and there's going to be different things that are going to be mentioned. And if it resonates with you, then you'll just take a knee. Does that make sense? So just keep listening. So don't just take a knee, because I've done it before where everyone took a knee on the first one. I was like, wait, there's still more. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, come closer. Don't be afraid. I'm up here. Okay. You guys ready? I need you all to stand up right now. You know what they say? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. To be honest, if you don't learn to surrender your pride for the sake of others, can you really stand in unity for others? I don't think so. There are people around the world, no in this very city, that have felt alone and abandoned, rejected by a supposedly inclusive society. Yet when it came to their salvation, where was society? Where was society when the woman found out that she was pregnant and the man ran away and left her and that baby? Not for better, but for worse. So someone take a knee for that mother and be her husband and be that child's father. Those trapped by their identity, everything they are is connected to their color, where they can go, who they can be. It's all determined by the pigment that they wear on their bodies, like an emblem that some wear proudly and others feel ashamed and would rather be someone else. We stand in unity for those whose land was stripped away from their ancestors and now used as a place for the prophet of the West. Take a knee for those who've died just because they weren't the right color. Broken people, war-torn areas, blood splattered over the streets of a sandy desert place, cold stares of soldiers willing to slaughter all who pass by, fathers, mothers, and children. People try to flee for their lives. Some escape, but most die. Most pass on to the other side. It is truly sad. These wars are all for the benefit of one and not for the collective. Someone take a knee for those who have died in war. Broken girls, broken by the media, have been subjected to diets that led to anorexia, body dysmorphia, body positivity left the thin girls in the nativity in a stable. These girls battle for years just to feel beautiful, but many of them still feel like dirt. Someone take a knee for the girls who need to be set free. Oh my, oh my, oh my, the tears that have dropped on the floor, mixed with the blood of the recently cut arms, forearms to be exact, slumped down against the wall, looking for an out, looking for peace, pills shaking, bridges rocky, last breath. Gone for eternity. People crying, breaking down over another lost person. Everyone take a knee, because I know you felt that you know someone who's been hurt and is now gone. My people, let me join you and take a knee. You've chosen to commit yourself to these people who you do not know. I won't get up just yet. In fact, I'll go down on my other knee and pray for the world. Lord Jesus, please help us who have taken the need to help those who need us, to fill their hearts with love that comes from you and through us. Let us arise and stand in power. In those who are weak, we stand in victory. Thank you for taking a knee. Now stand in solidarity.